40 teams across the state of Texas, a chance to etch your name in history. This is the 2023 Texas High School Football State Semifinals. These are the picks. Welcome into the picks, your guide to the Texas High School football weekend. My name is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to the state semifinal round of the 2023 Texas High School football playoffs. There are 40 teams with state championship dreams that are left remaining in the playoffs. That does not count, by the way, the 4 teams that have already punched their ticket to AT&T Stadium in the 1A state championships. Congratulations to Gordon and Westbrook, who will square off in the 1A Division I state title game, and to Benjamin and Oglesby, a first-timer through to their first state championship game in the 1A Division II title game. Congratulations again, them. They get the week off. They get to play next Wednesday at AT&T Stadium. But that leaves us 20 games, 20 tickets to be punched to AT&T Stadium, and 20 hearts to be broken. We call it the cruelest round of the Texas High School football playoffs because if you win this week, you're remembered forever. Even if things don't go well at AT&T Stadium, you made it there. You made it to a state championship game, and that is a program-defining moment. If you don't, though, if you lose this week, that's tough. There's 20 games across the state, 40 teams with eyes on AT&T Stadium. We will go through every single game in this very brief video. Do not check the timestamp. We start in Lubbock. 6 o'clock Thursday night at Lowry Field in Lubbock. It is a 2A Division II state semifinal matchup between the Sunray Bobcats and the Albany Lions. It's the defending state champs against a relative upstart in Sunray into their first state semifinal since 2003 and actually in the 5th round of the playoffs for the first time in program history. And there is no doubt about who is the straw that stirs the drink for Sunray. It is quarterback Armando Luan, who is out of control, folks. 8 total touchdowns last week in their blasting of Clarendon in the regional final. They were exceptional. And by the way, do not overlook their defense as well, which has gotten better every week. Defensive lineman Julio Viedo leads the way for this Bobcats defense. They've got a tall task this week to knock off the defending state champs in Albany, who just mowed past Collinsville last week. And the defense, led by Jackson Hole, was just outstanding. This defense is so sound. They don't miss tackles. And that's the thing that really impresses me. They play as a unit, they fly to the football, and when they get there, they strike you and they get you to the ground. It is really fun to watch. Not to mention their offense. With Adam Hill, their running back, when he gets going downhill, he is really hard to stop, and this offense is really hard to stop. Their quarterback, the lefty, Chip Chambers, has grown into the role as well, and he is a real additive to victory for them as well. This game comes down to, can Sunray find a way through what has been an outstanding Albany defense, and can that Sunray defense continue to play up to its paper? I think that Armando Luan may have some magic left in him, but I think that Albany's got to be your favorites. I think playoff pedigree matters, and Albany's got the advantage there. I think the Lions go back to AT&T Stadium to defend their crown. 7 o'clock Friday night at Crusader Stadium in Belton. It is a 2A Division II state semifinal between the Mart Panthers and the Chilton Pirates. This is actually a rematch of a quarterfinal back in 2021, if you remember back then when these two teams were both in Region 3. Mart has been their normal dominant self through Region 3 play. They've won their first 14 games of the season by an average margin of more than 40 points. They have been absolutely outstanding, but last week against Lovelady, they ran into some trouble. They were down 20-10 at halftime before hitting the Jets in the second half and rattling off, let me check my notes, 47 straight to win the game going away. The running game is really good with J.D. Bell and DeMontrell Medlock. The defense has stepped up in a big way with Abram Ross and company. But did Lovelady write a little bit of a script that Chilton can follow? They're certainly capable of running the ball with Decatur and Evans. This Chilton offense looked fantastic in their win last week to make it here over Falls City. They've also got a dual threat quarterback in Isaiah Red. He has been fantastic, and I think their defense is playing their best football right now. This is an interesting matchup. Now, Region 3 has typically dominated Region 4 in games like this, specifically Mart when they've been in Region 3. But Chilton has a number of weapons, especially Evans and Red, that I think can really challenge Mart. Can they find enough traction on this Mart defense, and can Mart find a way, a counterpunch like they did last week against Lovelady? This game's interesting. I do think that playoff pedigree again matters, and Mart has that in buckets. I think the Panthers are heading back to AT&T Stadium. 5 o'clock Thursday at Lion Stadium in Vernon. It is a 2A Division I state semifinal between the Toller Rattlers and the Stratford Elks. And if you like your football mean and nasty and physical and hard-hitting, welcome to this ball game, because this game is going to be all of those things and more. These two teams are a lot of fun to watch. They've been dominant, coming off of dominant wins last week, and they each have a player that I think embodies what their entire team is about. For Toller, it's running back Peyton Brown, who is a enormous, throttling running back there, a guy who is a bulldozer, and a guy who you just get tired of tackling. Peyton Brown is such a menace back there because he's so big and physical, and he runs with such authority. That is going to be a real challenge for the Stratford defense. Now, on the other side for Stratford, you've got Bryce Braden, their quarterback and linebacker, and he is a moose. Okay? He's just a big, thick dude who comes through with big plays on both sides of the ball. He is their leading passer, rusher, tackler, sacker, and tackles for loss guy. He does everything for the Stratford team, and he is worth the price of admission by himself. That is what makes this game so interesting, is the individual star power on both sides, and they're both built to win big physical matchups. I have agonized over this game. I think this is the toughest game to call this weekend, plain and simple. And it is going to be really intriguing to see which defense can come up with the stop. Here's where I land on it. I think that the Stratford defense, led by Braden and Karsten Long, gives them the slightest of edges. That is where I ended up landing on it after about a weekend of thinking about it. This game's going to be close. It is going to be hard-hitting as all get out. But I think that Stratford edges out Toller. I think the Elks are heading for AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Woodforest Bank Stadium in Shenandoah. It is a 2A Division I state semifinal between the Timpson Bears and the Ganado Indians. In a regional final round full of stunners across the state of Texas, maybe no team in the state pulled the bigger upset than the Ganado Indians last week with what they did against Refugio. Remember, in Week 11, they lost to Refugio by 23 points. 27 days later, they beat Refugio by 29 points. Absolutely stunning what Josh Irvin and company have been able to do down there. It was a defensive masterclass out there for the Ganado Indians, and their defense found a lot of balance. Running back Dylan Holt was very good. Quarterback Bryce Ullman made some big boy throws. This was a masterpiece from Ganado. Now they got to follow it up in a state semifinal against the Timpson Bears and the best player in 2A football, in Terry Bussey. The reigning Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year is Superman. I mean, what do you say about him at this point? He is the most dominant player in 2A football, and Ganado's going to have to find an answer for him. Now, Timpson's pretty banged up right now. Running back J.J. Garner left the game last week against Garrison with an injury. We do not know his status this week. They were already banged up coming into this game. Now, keep in mind, this is a Timpson defense that's been playing well as well, led by their linebacker Tyler Lane. So don't throw dirt on them in that regard. This has got to be about Terry Bussey, right? I mean, he's going to be the central figure in this game. Can Ganado slow him down? Can they come up with big stops? Can Terry Bussey get loose and put on a legacy performance to take Timpson to their first ever state championship game? That is the real question. Remember, in 2A Division I, Region 4 has had an absolute stranglehold on the semifinals. Region 3 has not won a semifinal since 2012. When Mart did it, they're not even the same classification now, okay? It is a fascinating ball game, but in the end, I'm going to the team with a single individual best playmaker. I ain't picking against Terry Bussey. I think the Timpson Bears are heading for AT&T Stadium. 6 o'clock Friday night at Wildcat Stadium in Abilene. It's a 3A Division II state semifinal between the Gunner Tigers and the Canadian Wildcats for the 7th time in 8 years. So that's a thing. This is a game we've been waiting for since the final gun of the title game last year. Both teams are undefeated. Both teams have been absolutely dominant. Both teams have won their games by a combined average of 53 points per game. It is Judgment Day in 3A Division II. It's what it is. Canadians got the number one offense in 3A Division II, led by quarterback Cameron Cavalier, outstanding wide receiver in Luke Flowers, big-time running back in Caden Crooks, and their defense has been excellent as well, led by linebacker Wyatt Davis. Gunner has got one of the most exciting playmakers in 3A football in Walker Overman at the quarterback spot, a wide receiver out wide in Cannon Lindbergh, and their defense has the number 2 scoring defense in all of 3A Division II, led by Braden Hinton. So, how do you split these two teams? Right? This is the $64,000 question. The winner of this game is going to be, in my opinion, the heavy favorite to win the 3A Division II state championship game. I am a little concerned about Gunner's defense. Last week, Jacksboro kind of lit them up a little bit, hung 33 points on them, which is the first time they've really been touched up this year. Canadian has a better offense than Jacksboro, so that is something to keep in mind here. But in the end, I think the X factor in this game is Walker Overman, the quarterback for Gunner. I think he is the single individual most dynamic player in this game, and he has the ability to come up with 1 or 2 extra plays to win it. Now, something to keep in mind in this game. I am wrong a lot on this game. So, yeah, grain of salt, but I'm taking Gunner. Congratulations to Canadian. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Randall Reed Stadium in New Caney. It is a 3A Division II state semifinal between the Dangerfield Tigers and the Tidehaven Tigers. Dangerfield's in a semifinal for the first time since 2012, which is actually one of the longest droughts for them in program history, but what a job Davin Nelson and company have done to get here. Tidehaven in their first semifinal since 1981, which is particularly interesting. And for a 3A Division II game, there's a ton of star power here, right? For Dangerfield, they have got Aaron Hampton, the Texas commit, who is absolutely outstanding. I think their quarterback, Chase Johnson, is a lot of fun to watch. And they've got a star sophomore running back in Ashton Williams, and I'm really excited to see what he does in this game. On the Tidehaven side, they've got Joseph Dodds, the Baylor commit, who has been one of the most reliable running backs in all of Texas high school football this season. He is a lot of fun to watch, and they needed every bit of it in their come-from-behind win in the regional final last week. This game is really interesting stylistic clash. For Tidehaven, they're a little bit more plodding, a little bit more 3 yards in a cloud of dust, at least more than Dangerfield, who hits a lot of home runs, right? They want to take the top off this defense. A big question in this one is how long can this Tidehaven defense, which has been very good this year, how long can they keep the lid on this Dangerfield attack? I think this game's really fascinating and has an opportunity to be one of the most competitive games of the entire weekend, but I give Dangerfield's explosivity the very slight edge. I think the Tigers of Dangerfield, that is, are heading for AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Thursday night at the Star in Frisco. It is a 3A Division I state semifinal between the Brock Eagles and the Malakoff Tigers. This is a rematch of last year's state semifinal where Brock pulled away with a 21-10 win en route to their state title berth. And kind of the principles are about the same in this game. Malakoff's the faster team. Chauncey Hogg and Jerian Hall are certified burners. Brock is the bigger and more plodding and more physical team, though, with quarterback Brody Woods, who's been really good for them, and their running back Brett Tudor. Both defenses have been very good as well. Brock's got Cooper Massey in the middle of that defense, and for Malakoff, Doc Renberg leads the way. You go back to last year's game, right? We mentioned Brock, a 21-10 win. They were able to neutralize the speed advantage there by making Malakoff more or less play in a phone booth, and that was really impressive from Brock. Can they do that again? I'm going with Malakoff, and the reason is the growth of quarterback Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. I think he is going to come up with a couple of big throws that he wasn't able to make last year. I think he's going to dial 281-330-8004 and come up with a big win. This game is close like it was last year, but I think the result is different. I think Malakoff is heading for AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Thursday at Cy-Fair FCU Stadium in Cypress. It is a 3A Division I state semifinal between the Franklin Lions and the Edna Cowboys. Hey, do you remember at the beginning of the playoffs when the Dave Campbell's Texas football crew did predictions and none of us picked the two-time defending state champions to win their own region? Oops! Yeah, Franklin's making us all look a little silly now, and we should have seen it coming, right? This time of year, this is when they win. They've won 16 straight playoff games, and they are looking like a vintage Franklin team. What I think is so impressive is the defense, led by Braden Smith, has really grown up, I think, over the past 6 weeks or so. They're playing exceptional football right now. We know they're going to be able to run the ball with running back Jaden Jackson. Taking on an Edna team that they're familiar with. They played them last year in the semifinal, but quarterback Jaden Clay is a certified superstar. superstar for this Edna team. He is a lot of fun to watch. And their defense has been outstanding all year long, and is especially playing well right now. Go look at what they did to Blanco last week. But this game, I think, largely comes down to the difference in regional styles, right? Region 4 is the power region, and Region 3 is the speed region. And traditionally, at least over the past, decade or so, Region 3 has won out. Region 4 has not won a semifinal here since 2016 when Yoakum did it. And especially going back to last year, Franklin Speed gave Edna all sorts of trouble in a 41-13 win. I think it's closer than it was last year, but I think that Franklin's rolling right now. I think the Lions are back to defend their crown at AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Friday night at Children's Health Stadium in Prosper. It is a 4A Division II state semifinal between the Glen Rose Tigers and the Gilmer Buckeyes. Two surprise entrants in the state semifinals, but kind of for different reasons. For Glen Rose, they were 1-4 to start the year, and around here we were thinking, yeah, that honestly sounds about right. This is the Glen Rose team that didn't make the semifinals last year, but they graduated really, really heavy and lost a lot of their star power, and we thought, okay, well, they're going to kind of take a step back. Nope. Here in the state semifinals once again, quarterback Canyon Evans has been absolutely outstanding, and wide receiver Josiah Groenweg is one of the most dangerous receivers in the state right now. And their defense makes plays. They forced 28 turnovers this season. They're going up against a Gilmer team that wasn't expected to be here because they're kind of a fun but not serious team, right? Their offense is a lot of fun to watch. Caden Tennyson, their quarterback, and Will Henderson, the running back. They put up points, but they were 67th in 4A Division II in scoring defense, plus they had to get through Carthage. Well, here they are after pulling an absolute stunner last week and knocking off Carthage, snapping an 8-game losing streak to the Bulldogs to make it to a state semifinal. So both these teams can claim that nobody believed in them, right, to make it to this point. So what happens when they meet up in a state semifinal? Gilmer is flying high and playing outstanding football right now. I just can't get over the fact that I think that Glen Rose defense has an advantage in this one when you stack up the defenses. I think this game's fascinating, and certainly Gilmer's got the firepower to win this ball game, but I think Glen Rose looks like the more complete team right now, and I think that's why they get the edge. I think the Tigers are heading for AT&T Stadium. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at the field in Pflugerville. It is a 4A Division II state semifinal between the Wimberley Texans and the Belleville Brahmas. For Wimberley, this is old hat. They're back in a state semifinal for the 5th time in 7 years. We do not give Doug Warren enough credit for what he's done down there with that Texans program. Simply magnificent. For Belleville, first time they're staying in the state semifinals since 2012. Wimberley cruised through Region 4 like they normally do. They're winning their games by an average margin of about 40 points per game. Defense has been outstanding, and quarterback Cody Stover really feels like he's taken that next step. He's made that leap, and it's been a lot of fun to watch him do it. But I would argue to you that Wimberley has not been tested in a real way, played a team in their real weight class, in about 3 months since they played Brock back in non-district play. Got a win in that game, but it's been a minute since we've seen them tested. They will get tested this week against Belleville, who is the most dominant team in 4A Division II. Hard stop. They are number 1 in scoring offense in 4A Division II. They are number 1 in scoring defense in 4A Division II. They are number 2 in the entire state. All classifications in margin of victory, winning their games by an average of 49 points per game, and their slot T is humming. They got 3 backs back there, D.D. Murray, Sam Ranicki, and Corian Hood, who have gone for over 5,000 yards and 79 touchdowns on the year. It is shocking stuff. Plus, on the defensive side, they have an absolute animal in the middle of that defense in defensive lineman, DJ Sanders. Go watch his tape. It is shocking. Shocking tape. So, can Wimberley slow down the slot T? Can Belleville find a way to neutralize this outstanding passing attack from Wimberley? This game is fascinating, but I got to go with the Brahmas in this one. I think Belleville is heading for the state championship game. 7 o'clock Friday night at C.H. Collins Stadium in Denton. It is a 4A Division I state semifinal between the Decatur Eagles and the Anna Coyotes, and we get an ultra rarity here. A state semifinal rematch. That's right. These two teams played in week 1 when Anna took a 37-30 win over Decatur. And both teams have changed and grown, but that's just really interesting that they're going to be seeing each other once again on the biggest stage. For Anna, we had big questions coming into the year because they were replacing an FBS quarterback and a do-everything running back, but they've done that in a big way because quarterback Ziondre Williams has been unbelievable. Wide receiver Jacob Emmers has emerged as a huge threat in the passing game, and the running game with Edward Chumley is dangerous as well. Going up against a Decatur team that is getting its legs underneath them with running back Nate Palmer. He is just such a superstar. He was out with a number of games due to injury, but he is back with a vengeance, and they're starting to get that feeling of like a team of destiny type thing there in Decatur. Go look at what they did to break the hearts of Brownwood last week if you want to see what I mean. In their first meeting, right, 37-30 and a win, both superstars took center stage. Okay, Nate Palmer ran for 196 yards and a pair of scores. Ziondre Williams went for 353 total yards and 4 touchdowns. Which defense can contain the other superstar the best? That's the real question in this one. This is a coin flippy type game, and I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. But I think Anna gets the win. I think they're heading for AT&T Stadium for the first time. 7 o'clock Friday night at McLean Stadium in Waco. It is a 4A Division I state semifinal between the Tyler Chapel Hill Bulldogs and the San Antonio Davenport Wolves. What is up with second-year varsity programs? It feels like it started in 2015, right when Brock won a state championship as a second-year varsity program, at least competing for UIL honors. And then you had Alvin Shadow Creek win a title in 2019, Katy Paetow won a title in 2021, and now Davenport into a state semifinal in their second varsity season. Remember, we thought they were going to take a step back. Like, they were losing their running back, Shaston Golden. They were supposed to fall back to the pack, but instead they're here in a state semifinal because Tristan Hamlin, their quarterback, has been outstanding. Barrett Fallon has really picked up the pace at the running back spot. They have a talented group of wide receivers. They surged past Port Lavaca Calhoun last week to win Region 4. Now they get a very different test in Chapel Hill, who is a big offense, wide open. Demetrius Brisbane, the superstar quarterback, and Ricky Stewart. They have speed to burn. This is a much faster team than Davenport faced last week. And more importantly for Chapel Hill, we saw them do what we've been waiting for them to do all year, which is to bow up against a big physical team and come out with a defensive win. And that's what they did last week when they avenged their loss to Kilgore. It's awfully impressive from Jeff Reardon's squad. Now, the key matchup in this one is the Chapel Hill front seven against this running game for Davenport. Take a look at the numbers. In Davenport's losses, they average 4 yards a carry. In their wins, they average nearly 7. That's the whole ball game in this one. So can Chapel Hill match up front against this Davenport team? I got to be honest, this Davenport team's looking like a team of destiny right now, and the way they're playing is awfully impressive. I think the Wolves are heading to the AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Friday night at the Star in Frisco. It is a 5A Division II state semifinal between the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears and the Frisco Emerson Mavericks. Speaking of second-year varsity programs, the Emerson Mavericks, just the third Frisco ISD team to play in a state semifinal, joining Frisco High and Frisco Lone Star. And what a job Kendall Miller has done with this young program. And it's easy to see why they're here. Points. Points. They average nearly 57 points per game. Quarterback Mike Hawkins has been fantastic. Running back Izzy Bills is a real dynamo back there. They have a legion of talented wide receivers, a great offensive line. They put on a clinic last week offensively in their 59-48 win over Colleyville Heritage. Their offense is absolutely humming right now. But here come the two-time defending champs in South Oak Cliff, who are looking like vintage South Oak Cliff. What they did to Lovejoy last week was shocking. Absolutely shocking dominance, what they did. And the running game got going. Khalil Ewell and Danny Green was fantastic. They're throwing the ball well with William Little. And they took a Lovejoy team that was averaging 44 points a game, and they hung a donut on them. It was awfully impressive from South Oak Cliff, and they are playing outstanding football right now. I don't know if I love this matchup for Emerson. I think that this is a South Oak Cliff defense that is designed to slow down offenses like them. And the Frisco Emerson defense gives me a little bit of the willies, especially the way this running game is going. I got to see if Frisco Emerson can match up front against this physical offensive and defensive front for South Oak Cliff. I think this game has a chance to be a lot of fun there at the start, but South Oak Cliff's got the playoff pedigree, and they have got that look in their eye like they're heading back to AT&T Stadium. I think the Golden Bears go back to defend their crown. 7 o'clock Friday night at Cy-Fair FCU Stadium in Cyprus. It's a 5A Division II state semifinal between the Port Neches Groves Indians and the Liberty Hill Panthers. It's a purple party in Cyprus, and it is another rematch from last year. Remember, this was a state semifinal last year where Port Neches Groves came away with a win, and we can jazz it up all you want, gussy it up however you want, but there's one matchup that we're going to talk about in this ball game, and it is this Port Neches Groves defense led by Jacob Cabrera and masterminded by Jeff Joseph, going up against the slot T offense for Liberty Hill led by Noah Long and Ben Carter. That's the whole ball game in this one. Now last year when they met, Port Neches Groves really stymied the Liberty Hill slot T attack, but that comes with a pretty serious asterisk because Liberty Hill is really banged up. They were without two of their top three rushers in that game. They are healthy in this game. How much does that change things? I'm really interested to see that matchup. The other side is interesting as well because for all we talk about the running game for Liberty Hill, which has been fantastic, Port Neches Groves can run the ball as well. Isaiah Nguyen is an outstanding back there, and they are getting healthy at the right time. They have a number of playmakers that are going to make this Liberty Hill defense work. I think this game is really intriguing because, especially in contrast to what we saw last year when they met, because I do think Liberty Hill is better than they were last year. I also think Port Neches Groves is better than they were last year, and I think that's the difference. I think the Indians go back to AT&T Stadium. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Midlothian ISD Stadium. It is a 5A Division I state semifinal between the Aledo Bearcats and the Forney Jackrabbits. It's an all-DFW state semifinal, which is a little interesting. And after a couple of minor road bumps, the Aledo machine appears to be fully online. And what's going on there is silly. I mean, quarterback Hoss Haney, running backs Racine Guillory and Hawk Patrick Daniels. The defense, it's all clicking right now for the Bearcats, and that is the challenge facing this Jackrabbits team, which is in the first state semifinal since 2002, coming off of a thrilling, heart-stopping, double overtime win over Lancaster to make it to the state semifinals. If Forney is going to pull off the stunner, and make no mistake, it would be a stunner if they knocked off Aledo. The path is, in my mind, getting Aledo into a track meet and getting Javian Osborne, their outstanding running back, and quarterback Kyle Crawford going, get this game into the 40s and see if you can make a couple of big defensive plays. But plain and simple, I don't think Aledo's defense lets it get there. And for all the talk about the offensive firepower they've got, I think their defense is starting to stand on its head as well. I think this game's a little interesting, especially if Forney can get that offense cooking, but I think Aledo has eyes on AT&T Stadium. I think the Bearcats make it back to the title game. 7 o'clock Friday night at Buccaneer Stadium in Corpus Christi. It is a 5A Division I state semifinal between the Smithson Valley Rangers and the Brownsville Veterans Memorial Chargers. It happened. A Rio Grande Valley team is in a state semifinal for the first time in 20 years after Brownsville Vets storms back from a 21-point fourth quarter deficit to stun Corpus Christi Miller and make Rio Grande Valley history. What an unbelievable job by first-year coach J.C. Ramirez. And the Flexbone offense is starting to hum, led by quarterback Storm Montoya, and their defense, led by Jaime Martinez, has been very strong as well. They play complementary football. The offense goes on long, sustained drives. The defense stands up because it's rested. If they're going to become the first Rio Grande Valley team to play for a state championship since 1961, they will have to go through one of the most pedigreed programs in San Antonio in Smithson Valley, who is through to the state semifinal after a thrilling come-from-behind win over A&M Consolidated. And Larry Hill, the longtime coach there at Smithson Valley, we know what his teams are about. They are about defense, and it's been a defensive masterclass here from them lately, led by Jackson Maynard up front. They've got some explosivity offensively as well with Freddie Dubose. If Brownsville Veterans Memorial is going to pull the upset, and it would be an upset, plain and simple, the path through it is going to be ball control. They have to keep this ball away from Smithson Valley, go on long sustained drives, and lean on their defense to come up with stops. In the end, I think Smithson Valley's too good, plain and simple. I think they are one of the most talented teams in all of 5A Division I, and I think the Rangers are heading for AT&T Stadium. 2 o'clock Saturday at Eagle Stadium in Allen. It is a 6A Division II state semifinal between the DeSoto Eagles and the Southlake Carroll Dragons. Two big brand name DFW powers collide, and it is going to be a lot of fun, specifically because both these teams are playing their best football right now. Southlake Carroll is coming off of avenging their only loss of the year. They turned a 17-point loss to Byron Nelson into a 49-point win. Yeah, and for all we talk about Southlake Carroll's quarterback factory, just see who's coaching them right now, this is a team that, even as good as Graham Knowles, their quarterback, is, they are at their best when they are running the ball with Riley Wormley and Davis Penn, because their running game feeds their defense, and they are playing lights out right now. This is a lot of fun to watch this Southlake Carroll team. For DeSoto, they are also playing their best football right now. Last week, they just absolutely throttled district rival Cedar Hill to make it here to the state semifinals. And we need to start talking about Tiger Ryden, their running back, I think being perhaps the most impactful player in 6A football. What I mean by that is he was injured for a decent part of the season, and while he was injured, this DeSoto offense was really good, and now with him back, they just seem like they're on a different level. Quarterback DJ Bailey is playing better. Marvin Duffy, the other running back, is playing fantastic. They got a bevy of wide receivers out wide, including the superstar freshman Boobie Feaster, and the defense is flying around right now. This game is really interesting. Can DeSoto stop the run? That's a big question. The other question for me is, how much does Southlake Carroll have left in the tank? Because that was a big emotional win last week, they've got to reload and get ready for the defending champs. I think this game is going to be a whale of a ball game, but I think they got to go with the defending champs. I think DeSoto moves on to the state championship game. 4 o'clock Saturday at McLean Stadium in Waco. It is a 6A Division II state semifinal between the Humble Summer Creek Bulldogs and the Cibolo Steel Knights. When the Division II bracket came out, right back at the beginning of the playoffs, I think we all looked at all of the power kind of shifting to the D1 bracket, especially in Region 3 and Region 4, and we were like, who's going to step up? Well, both these teams have stepped up in a big way and grabbed their regions by the horns, and it's been really fun to watch. For Cibolo Steel, they won a gritty game over Dripping Springs last week, and there is no doubting the talent on this team. Quarterback Chad Warner, wide receiver Jalen Cooper. They were able to run the ball pretty well with Jonathan Hatton last week, and they have dynamite players in the secondary, especially Alvin Williamson. This is a really fun Cibolo Steel team to watch when they're hitting on all cylinders, and they appear to be doing that right now. Humble Summer Creek survived the scare from Fort Bend Hightower last week. Blake Thomas, their quarterback, and running back Lloyd Avant put on the cape late in that one to come away with the win. They have a defensive game changer in the middle of their defense and linebacker Xavier Atkins, but they were a little touched up through the air last week, and that is going to need to be shored up, because this is a passing attack from Steele that can take advantage of a secondary that is not up to snuff. Can Cibolo Steel slow down Lloyd Avant, because Summer Creek absolutely run the ball, and can Summer Creek shore up that secondary against what's going to be a high-flying Cibolo Steel attack? This is a classic semifinal, right? Houston versus San Antonio. I love these types of matchups. I give the edge to the Alamo City in this one. I think Cibolo Steel is heading for AT&T Stadium. 3 o'clock Saturday at Mesquite Memorial Stadium. It's a 6A Division I state semifinal between the Duncanville Panthers and the North Crowley Panthers. And it's a matchup of unbeatens. And if you want a game with dudes, this is a game with dudes. Okay? The talent level in this game is absolutely insane. This is a North Crowley offense that really feels like it's in full bloom right now. Quarterback Chris Jimerson has been fantastic. Running back Ashton Searle, he has a knack for breaking off that back-breaking run. He is a lot of fun to watch. For Duncanville, you know the dudes they've got, right? Colin Simmons on the defensive side. Quarterback Keelan Russell's been fantastic. DeCorian Moore outside. Caden Durham at the running back spot. That big offensive and defensive line is so menacing. And for all of the North Crowley firepower, this game comes down to what it always comes down to when you play Duncanville, which is how well do you match up front. Plain and simple. I do think North Crowley actually matches up pretty well up front, which could lend itself to a really fun game, but I think that Duncanville's skill talent is going to be a little bit too much for North Crowley to keep a cap on for 48 minutes. I think this game has a chance to really steal the show on Saturday, but I think Duncanville is heading back to a familiar place. I think the Panthers of Duncanville head back to AT&T Stadium. And 3 o'clock Saturday at the field in Pflugerville is a 6A Division I state semifinal between the Galena Park North Shore Mustangs and the Austin Westlake Chaparrals. It's another clash of titans. It's another matchup of unbeatens. It is another Austin versus Houston showdown. Yeah, I mean, if you're not into this, we can't be friends, plain and simple. Austin Westlake rumbled past rival Lake Travis last week on the strength of what they always do, which is running game with Jack Kaiser and their outstanding defense led by Elliott Shaper. Now, I think their quarterback, Reese Wise, has really grown into the role, but make no mistake, Kaiser is the heart and soul of that team, and their defense is what they're always going to lean on with Coach Tony Salazar at the helm. They are 4th in scoring defense in all of Class 6A. Taking on a Galena Park North Shore team that also won a rematch last week when they knocked off Atascocita, and the talent here is unmistakable. Right? When you take a look at Caleb Bailey at the quarterback spot, a legion of outstanding wide receivers, DeAndre Hardiman running the ball, and a staggeringly talented defense led by Devin Sanchez out wide. This team is really fun to watch. But we do need to talk about something with North Shore, which is something we haven't had to talk about with them for about the past 5 years, which is inconsistency. Plain and simple. Go look at the first half of 3 of their first 4 playoff games, right? They were up 14-7 on Deer Park at halftime in the first round, okay? They were knotted up with Clear Springs at 14 in the second round, the second round. And then last week, they were down to Atascocita 14-6 at halftime. Now, in all 3 of those games, they hit the Jets in the second half and outscored their opponents 90-28 to pull away. But that is something to keep an eye on, because if they start slow in this one, that could be trouble for them. That said, I think that what has been consistent for North Shore has been that defense. And that is where I think they have a pretty sizable advantage when they match up against the Westlake offense, which has been a little bit fits and starts at times. I think this game is really interesting just because of the brand names involved, but North Shore, I think, is a deserving favorite. I think the Mustangs head back to AT&T Stadium. And those are the picks. I picked all 20 state semifinal games this weekend, and now you can let me know, what am I wrong about? Leave comments down below. Don't forget that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And of course, see us at texasfootball.com, where you can find complete coverage of the 2023 Texas High School Football Playoffs and the 2023 Texas High School Football State Championship games at texasfootball.com. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the state semifinals. We'll see you.